Welcome to our Java programming class. Today, we will dive into the world of mouse events and how to handle them in your Java GUI applications. In Swing, a mouse event is a notification of a mouse click by the program user. These events are crucial for interactive applications where users can manipulate drawings or interact with graphical elements using a mouse. Mouse events are more complex than simple button clicks or timer ticks. To handle mouse events effectively, you must implement all 5 methods of the mouse listener interface. They are mouse pressed, mouse released, mouse clicked, mouse entered, and mouse exited. Each of these methods retrieves a mouse event object as a parameter. This object contains valuable information about the event, including the mouse location, the type of mouse button involved, and more. To use mouse events in your program, you must create a class that implements the mouse listener interface. You then add this listener to the component that you want to track mouse events for. Let's expand on the 5 methods of the mouse listener interface in Java. The mouse click method is invoked when the mouse button is both pressed and released, quickly without significant mouse movement. This event is ideal for handling single-click actions, like opening a menu or selecting an item. It receives a mouse event object that contains information about the mouse click, such as the mouse's coordinates and the clicked button's type. The mouse pressed method is called when the mouse button is pressed, meaning clicked and held down. It is suitable for actions that should occur when the button is initially pressed, such as starting a drag and drop operation. Like mouse clicked, it also receives a mouse event object. The mouse released is triggered when a mouse button is released after being held down, usually following a mouse pressed event. It's helpful for actions that should occur when the button is released, like completing a drag and drop operation. It too receives a mouse event object. The mouse entered method is fired when the mouse pointer enters the area of a user interface component. It is useful for changing the component's appearance when the mouse is over it, such as highlighting a button. Mouse exited is called when the mouse pointer leaves the area of a user interface component. It is commonly used to revert the component to its original state or appearance when the mouse moves away. Just like the other methods, it also receives a mouse event object. These methods collectively allow you to respond to different mouse interactions and create more interactive and responsive user interfaces. By understanding when and how to use these methods, you can enhance the user experience in your Java GUI applications. When dealing with mouse events in Java Swing, the method to register a listener with a graphical component is different from the approach used for other types of action events. When you are dealing with components like buttons, checkboxes, or menu items, you often want to listen for user actions such as clicks. For these components, you use action events. To register an action listener with such components, you typically use the addActionListener method. Mouse events are more general and can be applied to any component, not just those that explicitly represent user actions, such as buttons. To respond to mouse events like clicks, mouse movements, or mouse entering, exiting a component, you use a mouse listener. To add a mouse listener to a component, you use the add mouse listener method. The difference lies in the type of events you want to capture and the type of listener you use. Again, add action listener is used for components designed for user actions, while add mouse listener is used for capturing more detailed mouse-related events on any component. This allows you to create versatile and interactive GUI applications by responding to both user actions and mouse interactions effectively. In Java GUI development, the mouse motion listener is an interface provided by the Swing library that allows you to capture and respond to mouse motion events. These events include the movement of the mouse pointer within a component, such as a JFrame, JPanel, or any other Swing component. The mouse motion listener interface defines two methods that you need to implement to handle mouse motion events. Mouse dragged. This method is called when the mouse is dragged while one or more mouse buttons are pressed. This method also receives a mouse event object, which contains the information about the current position of the mouse, the buttons pressed, modifiers such as Control or Shift keys, and more. You can use this method to respond to continuous mouse movement when buttons are held down, making it suitable for tasks like dragging objects on the screen. Mouse moved. This method is called when the mouse is moved without any buttons pressed. Again, the mouse event object provides information about the event, including the current mouse position. You can use this method to capture and respond to mouse movement when no buttons are being pressed. Common use cases include updating the GUI based on the mouse's position, showing tooltips, or highlighting components as the mouse hovers over them. To use the mouse motion listener in the Java GUI development, you typically follow these steps. First, implement the mouse motion listener interface by providing implementations for these two methods. In your implemented mouse dragged and mouse moved methods, specify the actions you want to take in response to mouse motion events. This could involve updating the GUI, moving components, changing cursor types, or other interactive behaviors. And register your mouse motion listener with a Swing component where you want to capture mouse motion events. This can be any Swing component. You can do this using the add mouse motion listener method on the component. Now let's demonstrate how to handle mouse event with a real Java example. Let me add a new Java class called the mouse event example. And we start with the main method. I'm going to add a main frame to the application. Next, we created a panel and use a null layout manager to position the components manually. And we create a label object and set its bounds. We then add both panel and the label to the frame. Next, we're going to create a custom mouse listener. Next, we're going to define a custom mouse listener and a mouse motion listener to handle different mouse events. For example, mouse clicked. This method is called when the mouse is clicked, pressed, and released on the component. Mouse pressed, so this method is called when the mouse button is pressed. So every time an action is captured, The mouse event parameter provides information about the event, such as the position of the mouse, button states, modifiers keys, and so forth. Next, we're going to create a custom mouse motion listener. So we add a mouse motion listener with two methods, mouse dragged and mouse moved. So for mouse dragged, this method is called when the mouse is dragged with a button pressed. For mouse moved, this method is called when the mouse is moved without any button pressed. Next, we need to register the mouse listener and the mouse motion listener with the label component. When the mouse interacts with the label, the appropriate mouse event methods are called, and the messages are printed to the console. Now let's run this application and interact with it to gain a deeper understanding of how these methods are associated with mouse events. You can move around the label and you may see messages printed to the console.